Are you looking to buy or build a computer? Well, if you are, there's some things you should probably know. We're going to talk about that right now. Hi, welcome to Gibby's World of Tech. I'm Gibby, and I am so glad that you found my channel. I have wanted so long to get into this space so that I could teach people the things that I've learned over the years of working around computers. And the first thing that came to my mind when I thought of my first video for YouTube is how to help people pick a computer or build a computer. And the first thing that came to my mind after that was, well, what if they just want to go shopping around? Well, there's some things you need to know. Now, someone like me and some of the other YouTubers that have been around computers a long time, we take these things for granted. But if you're the kind of person who typically pulls something off the shelf and takes it home, you probably do research before you do that. You want to get the best for your money, but that can get very confusing when it comes to computers. There's a lot of terminologies, there's a lot of different brands, there's a lot of flashing lights and bells and whistles that can easily distract you. So we're going to talk about that right now. And I generally do not like talking head videos. If you'll stick with me, I promise you by the end of this video, you're going to feel a whole lot more prepared to go find that perfect PC or hopefully tackle the fun of building your own. Okay, so the first thing that I think we need to talk about when it comes to computers, we really have to change how we think about buying computers, and that's really essential for anyone, whether you're brand new to computers or whether you've been in computers for 20 years. You really need to rethink what you think about when you think of a type of computer. The evolution of technology has moved so far and so fast, it's very easy to get left behind. Myself, I stepped away from computers for a few years and pursued some other things, and I was shocked when I came back into the business and saw all the new technology. Some of the factors that affect our decisions when it comes to computers are, we've been programmed to buy the newest product, even if the current product we have is working fine, whether it be a phone, a laptop, any other kind of tech device. We have been influenced by friends, by media, social media. These things all impact our buying decision. Marketing is the biggest factor. It steers us to flashy cases and RGB lighting and gets us to focus more on what's on the outside and not so much on what we should be focused on, which is on the inside. Many self-help building guides and videos are rushed, incomplete, or they're just bad. You do need more than a Swiss Army knife to build a computer. The big box stores very seldom have knowledgeable help. It is shameful that you can walk into a store that sells technology and talk to someone who knows nothing about the section they're working in other than what they read off the tag while you're standing there with them. I've experienced that myself. It's insulting. You should not be insulted as a consumer. You're smart. You know more than you think you know, and you deserve to be treated as a consumer who is researching. And in order to have that proper respect, you need to have people who are knowledgeable and know more than you do. And you're not going to find that at most big box stores. The worst thing, I think, is that we get fooled into believing we have to keep up with technology. For example, when a new iPhone or a new Android phone comes out, we get tricked into believing we have to have that phone, even though our phone is working perfectly fine, and that new phone in many cases really doesn't have a big benefit to us. Myself, I like to wait 4 years before I'd look at a new phone because I watch how the technology grows, and I see that now, after 4 years, they've accumulated enough new features, it makes sense for me to change. Otherwise, I just try not to break the one I have and I just keep using it. Now, moving forward, you have to decide, what kind of user are you? When I say user, what kind of technology user are you? Are you the kind of person who thinks of technology as just a convenience, Or do you think of technology as an absolute must-have? Neither one is wrong. It just depends on you and your preferences. So we're going to look more closely at some of these points as we go along, but some things to consider as we get it deeper into this are, what was your last computer? Was it a Commodore 64? That's what I started learning computers on. Maybe you had an IBM 486. Maybe a Pentium, when it was just called a Pentium. That's really important because so much has changed. Do you just check email and watch Netflix and YouTube videos? Do you work on your computer at home? Is it going to be a gaming computer? Maybe it's a combination of both of those things. You have to be honest with yourself. Are you struggling with modern tech? Are you the kind of person who has a hard time resetting the clock on the microwave? Or are you the kind of person who can just pick up a tech device and figure it out in 5 seconds? Both kinds of people need technology to some degree, and both kinds of people can be a better educated consumer. It doesn't mean that you're bad with technology, it just means your experiences have not been the best and you need a little help. That's what I'm hoping to do. Now, if you're like the average consumer, you like to keep things simple. You don't want too much trouble because at the end of the day, you and tech are kind of like Peter Griffin and the chicken.
Oh, crap.
Do you have a PC now and it just isn't up to par? You don't notice that a PC slows down over time for a variety of reasons. And in some future videos, we're going to talk about ways to speed up a computer that's just dragging behind, and also how to identify internal problems with hardware and software that are causing those slowdowns. The truth is, one of the worst contributing factors to slow computer performance is age. As a computer ages, the internet and the demand on that computer increases exponentially. So the computer you bought 3 years ago that was blazing fast might be very slow today. There's nothing wrong with your computer. It's the world around you has changed that much. What is your budget? This is one of the hardest things to narrow down with technology because it changes daily. The price of technology changes generally on a weekly basis, but it can fluctuate daily. Right now, graphics cards are literally changing prices daily. So if you are the kind of consumer who checks prices and you have a specific budget in mind and you're writing down prices, if you wait a week, those prices may be higher or lower. So to say you should wait another month or two or wait for a new graphics card to come out, I think is making a very callous prediction. Nobody can know what's going to happen from one day to the next. As consumers, all we can really do is hope that the manufacturers want to be faithful to their consumer base, but at the end of the day, they only want to make money. We, as consumers, we want to save money and we want to get the best value for our money that we can. So make a budget, but be flexible on it. Be prepared to go above it by about 10% in spite of your best efforts. Also, more expensive components don't necessarily mean that they're better. We're going to talk about that concerning the computer sitting right behind me, which is my productivity computer. It's not for gaming, although it games very well. You would be surprised at the graphics card that it's running right now. We're going to do that on a future video. We're going to show you just what it can do. Now, are you interested in building a PC? I hope that you are. I really genuinely hope that everyone will take an interest in building a PC. Not only is it rewarding and is it going to teach you about computers, you're going to save a lot of money. And you can turn that money you saved into better parts. You also are going to get a better computer, believe it or not. It's been overcomplicated in the media and on YouTube channels and TikTok and other places. We've been tricked into believing that you have to have a PhD to build a computer. because unfortunately a lot of videos make it appear that it takes about 30 minutes to build a computer. Keep in mind that there's a lot of camera editing and montage, video effect, things like that in the interest of saving time that are used to give that appearance. But in reality, it can take up to 6 hours to build a computer from start to finish for an experienced builder. And I'm talking about an average computer. When you start getting into custom water loops and you get into more complex cases that have a lot of exposed angles due to tempered glass, your cable management has to be very, very good. That takes a lot of time. So be prepared. If you're going to build a computer, set aside a day, the afternoon. It's a good Saturday project. It's a lot of fun. And again, you're going to get a better product, believe it or not. And don't worry about warranty. The warranty that you get with every product you buy is coming from a company who stands behind their product and their reputation. Manufacturers of PC components have learned the hard way that too many bad reviews can ruin them. Do not be fooled by warranties. We'll get into that in just a moment. Now, this would have seemed to be the first question to ask, but do you need a laptop, or is a desktop the best option for you? That really does make a difference on what you do, because laptops, you really can't build yourself. You can make some modifications, but you can't go to a store and just buy all the parts and build a laptop on your own. You can source them off the internet. I don't recommend you do it. And we're going to talk more about the pros and cons of laptops in just a moment. So the next thing you need to really consider and think about carefully is, what is the purpose for your PC? As I mentioned earlier, the way you use the computer is extremely important. So the purpose defines the purchase. Remember that. You're going to hear me say that often. I even subscribe to this myself. Before I buy any kind of technology, I think about, what am I going to use it for? The camera I'm using right now to record this video was very carefully researched so that I knew that I was getting the best camera for the budget I set in mind, as well as the features I need it to perform now and in the future. So you have to think about these things. And again, you don't need to be an above average technology person. I don't know what you would even call that, a techie. You can be a basic technology user and research. If you know how to use Google, you have the power of the world at your fingertips. And I encourage you, research the product you're interested in. Now, the average PC user, including Apple products, they primarily perform 4 functions, which are email, banking, shopping, which kind of fall under finance really. They stream, and they use social media. That's your average. A small segment of people, they actually are the creators. They're people who do things like video editing. They do 3D rendering. Maybe they run a shop that does metalworking, and they render their projects on programs such as Fusion. These are very intensive programs that require a lot of a CPU and a graphics card. So they're going to have a very specific need, and generally they have a good idea or know someone who has a good idea of the level of computer that they need. Did you see that?
No.
I just gleated like hardcore.
No, I did not.
I have to back up.
I was wondering why you were staring at me so intensely.
Then you have the big one. And believe it or not, it's the smallest segment of computer users when you talk about numbers. However, it's the largest spending group. That is the gamer. And defining a gamer is very hard, because you could say if you play solitaire more than 30 minutes a day, you're a gamer. But traditionally, a gamer is actually someone who builds a computer for the sole purpose of playing the latest release title game. And these games are getting crazy. It's getting very hard to build a computer that can run a game the way it was intended. Most gamers are having to make compromises of some kind, and you need to be getting used to that word, compromise. It's very important when it comes to technology. If you're unwilling to compromise some things, you need to have a very large budget, and I'm just being honest with you. It is easy to spend $10,000 on a computer and still be disappointed. It depends on how you spend your money. You can also spend $1,500 and be delighted. Again, it depends on how it's configured. We're going to talk about that in some future videos. Now, the wonderful thing about gamers are the ones who drive the technology. Most manufacturers would be happy to produce graphics cards, motherboards, and processors that cost them pennies to make. But because gamers demand performance and they want things to look aesthetically pleasing and they have a particular set of needs, manufacturers have to keep up with that or their sales drop tremendously. Gamers on average spend $2,000 on a computer system. Some spend more, some spend less. It depends on their needs, but the average is $2,000. This is a gamer who is building his own PC. To build a PC is always going to be better and cheaper. If you build a $2,000 PC, that same computer, if you could get it, would be over $3,000 online or in a store. So keep that in mind. Each group has different needs for a computer. While it's true, a gaming computer is capable of all of these things, it might be lacking in a few areas, and frankly a waste of money in others. You also may not fully utilize its potential. If you have a high-powered gaming computer, but all you do is watch Netflix, stream some videos off of Disney, maybe check email, you're not using that computer the way it was meant to be used. And there may be some points where you feel like that computer doesn't perform very well. Some processors are better at multitasking than other processors. For example, AMD processors are known to be very gaming-focused processors. They like to do one task at a time, and they do it extremely well. But then when it comes to having 5 different programs open on your computer at one time, there can be some performance issues. And when I say that, I'm talking about really on paper. Most people don't notice it. We have an AMD in the house, and that computer is just as fast as my 11th gen Intel. So there's really not a noticeable difference. But some people will see that difference if they're using that computer to its potential. So again, what level of demand will be placed on your computer, and how much of what I mean by demand is what percentage of the PC's power will be needed. Games are generally considered the most demanding. Running a lot of mid-level programs at once, though, can actually strain the system harder than one game can. People don't tend to pay attention to things that seem harmless. For example, if you open Task Manager and look at the performance of your computer, Task Manager might actually be using more of your computer than anything on your computer. I experienced this today. It was amusing. Regardless of what you need the PC to do, you should spec it based on your greatest sustained demand requirements, not just occasional spikes. So if you have a game like Grand Theft Auto, and you play that maybe one day out of the week, the rest of the time all you do is go and check email, look at your banking info, pay some bills, maybe watch some movies and videos. You don't need to build that computer for gaming necessarily. You'd be amazed at what can run Grand Theft Auto and other titles of that similar age. However, if you play a game like Cyberpunk, which right now is one of the harder games to render properly on a computer, and you play that game daily, You need a very powerful computer or you're going to be disappointed. But there are some compromises that can be made so that instead of spending $3,000 on a computer, you can be very happy with playing that game for a lot less money. We'll get into that. Just remember that the greater the demand, the more robust, not necessarily more expensive, the computer should be. If you're running a lot of programs for an extended period of time, you're going to need a processor that can carry the weight for extended periods without running too hot. You're also going to need better cooling in your system, whether it be using more fans or an AIO, which is an all-in-one water loop, or a custom water loop. Custom water loops are difficult. Even the best people with custom water loops, they go through a lot to get that computer looking beautiful, to get all the tubes parallel and vertical and lined up properly. They waste a lot of tube. It's expensive. It's very effective at keeping things cool though. It has its advantages and it looks really great. But the manufacturers have responded by having the AIO. Essentially, an AIO is a radiator with fans and a water pump that mounts to your processor or to your graphics card, and it removes the heat using a cold plate, and it circulates that heat through a fluid out to the radiator, just like in your car. The fans cool it, it goes back, and this process continues, keeping it cool. So there's options for the high demand PC that will help keep everything in check. And so when I say robust, I mean this thing needs to be able to run for hours and hours without thermal throttling, without shutting down, and without cooking eggs. More power than needed is better. And that is a very simple statement, and the best analogy I can come up with is if you have a large boat, you are not pulling that with a Volkswagen Beetle. You're going to get a pickup truck with a diesel or a big V8 engine to pull it. The same is true with computers. If you're doing a lot with it, you need a powerful computer. If you're running a computer at 100% CPU utilization and graphics card utilization, and your RAM is pegged out, you're going to kill your computer. You're never going to be able to keep it cool. You're going to thermal soak the entire case, and it's going to feel hot if you touch the side of it. Ideally, you want the air coming out of your computer to be about the temperature of the air in the room around you. That is a perfect setup. That's what we're aiming for, is keeping that computer cool and happy. So make sure that when you're looking at computers, that you're being very honest about the needs you have and your budget, because if you get too little computer just to stay within budget, maybe it's better to wait a little while so that you can get a better performing PC. So, we talk about budget. What is your budget? And will this be a pre-built computer? That means it's in a box, you just pull it off the shelf and take it home. Will it be a custom pre-built? Meaning maybe you went online and you picked some components and parts and then a company built it for you and shipped it to you. Or are you going to build this thing from scratch yourself? Again, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm a big advocate for building your own computer. Again, establishing a budget with about a 10% overrun is a very good practice. That way you don't get sticker shock. When you start upgrading things, especially if you're doing a custom pre-built, the numbers go up very, very quickly. Generally, again, you'll get more for your money if you build the PC yourself. What you would spend $2,000 on at a big box store, you could probably build for around $1,200 and have exactly the components you need. Some people, a mid-level graphics card is really way more than they need, but what they need is a lot of RAM and a stronger CPU. Unfortunately, a lot of the pre-built computers are very mismatched. They'll have a very powerful graphics card, but 8 gigs of RAM and a underperforming CPU. This is going to result in something called bottlenecking. something is going to cause a slowdown, and we want to minimize that. And that's where research comes in. That's where asking questions comes in. Don't be afraid of either one of those. I talked about warranties earlier. I want you to be very aware of a warranty scam that goes around, and this is how it goes. You click on a website to look at a pre-built custom computer. They use marketing tactics to convince you that buying a computer through them is going to get you this amazing warranty. There's a saying that goes, if it looks too good, blah, 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 blah. There's a saying that goes, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is, and this certainly applies to computers. A warranty is only as good as the company behind it. Warranties from pop-up companies are useless, and they will charge you for it in some way. There's also a lot of fine print and red tape that you have to jump through. However, manufacturers of components for PCs, their reputation is everything. They're very competitive. Right now, more than ever, there's never been a better time to build a computer yourself because all the manufacturers are fighting for your business and your dollars. They know you have options. As AMD has continued to improve their technology, they are more and more the front runner for the gamer and the heavy PC user. I'm going to be building my own AMD gaming computer on a future video. If you're going to get a custom pre-built computer, there are reputable companies out there. We're going to have a video in the future that talks about the better known custom pre-built companies. And their prices are great. They really are. They're fair. Of course, they have to charge more than the parts. They have to make money. They have to pay their bills. They have to pay their employees and pay them well. But you're a smart consumer. You already know that. But you're going to get a really good computer for what you pay. You're going to get the choice to spec that computer any way you want. And they're not going to tell you they only have MSI graphics cards or they only sell Intel CPUs. No, they're going to let you spec that computer the way you want it. Keep that in mind as you're browsing around the internet. We've been talking a lot about buying parts and buying new computers. Keep in mind that there's one other type of computer that you may already be familiar with. It's the Frankenstein computer. A Frankenstein computer is one of the most fun computers to deal with. And essentially it's an old computer that has been updated with computer parts from other computers. It's a challenge to get them to work right, but when you do, it's very rewarding. So you can save a lot of money by making a Frankenstein computer. If you've got an old computer that you think is just no good, but you didn't throw it out, and it's still sitting in the closet, that computer may have life in it yet. It may be worth pulling it out and looking at it.
That's what she said.
You might only need to upgrade the RAM. You might be able to upgrade the CPU and maybe change the storage type a little bit and have a whole brand new computer and save a lot of money. Again, future videos are going to talk about this. And I'm mentioning the future videos because this channel is for the average consumer who works hard for their money and they want to spend that money well. They don't mind spending it, but they want to get the most for their money. I'm that way, and I think you're that way as well. Be very mindful of ego purchases. And what I mean by that is your coworker or your best friend buys a new computer and they're bragging about, they've got the Stimulator 18,000 graphics card and, it can run 3,000 frames per second and, it can run 12K video, and these are all made up things, by the way, completely nonsense. Don't get in a heated match about trying to keep up with that guy. That guy is outspending his ego, and that's all it amounts to. But we all fall for this a little bit. When we hear about someone's new graphics card, it kind of lights a fire in us if we like technology. To be honest with you, I love building computers so much that I play a game called PC Building Simulator, and you build computers on that game, and it helps me put that fire out. I could build computers all day long and not get tired of it. There's always a challenge. It's always interesting, and there's such a rewarding feeling that comes at the end when you push that power button and you get that initial post to start up and you see the beauty of that screen, there's no better feeling. Some people, they push that button and they have an anxiety attack. So I want to help you not have that feeling. But in order to do that, you have to be very honest when you're making a purchase and know that you're sticking to your budget, you're sticking to your purchase purpose. Now, watch for sales. Sales come and go by the week, by the day. If you're really in the market for a computer right now, you should be glued to the big websites such as Newegg. If you're lucky enough to have a Micro Center in your area, they don't sell things online really, but they have a fantastic store. You can go in there, pick out every component for your computer, no matter how ridiculous it is, and then you can build it there, and they will even help you build it there. So if you're in a town that has a Micro Center, I encourage you, go there. I've heard nothing but good things about them. Florida has been begging for Micro Center to come here to the Tampa area. I hope that they're going to do it soon. We used to have a place that was similar, and for whatever reason they went away. So watch for sales, watch for opportunities for components that you're going to need. If you've been doing research and you know that you need DDR4 memory, you know that you need an Intel or an AMD processor, look for those specific parts. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that whether you want a laptop or desktop matters. Well, it matters a lot. So one of the greatest myths in the world of tech is that a laptop is just as good as a desktop. Well, yes and no. On the spec sheets, they can be very similar, but that's where the equality ends. Some cons of the laptop are, obviously, it's a laptop and it can be stolen right off your lap. Another downside is that they're very prone to overheating. They have gotten better, but at the end of the day, they have a lot of components smashed into a very small space. And in order to provide you with USB ports and Ethernet ports and things, they're limited on where they can have ventilation. They can only have so many fans without being just too noisy to be worth using. Making a laptop is extremely challenging for the manufacturers. So again, if you're honest with your needs and you get a laptop that is spec'd properly for your need, I think most of the time you're going to find that they're just not going to be good for the long haul. They're good for portable work. If you're waiting at an airport, if you're sitting on a subway, if you commute in some other way to work and you need to get something done, laptops are fantastic for that, and that's what they're built for. They're great for going to the park and doing some things on there while you enjoy nature. But they're not made to be a workhorse. They're trying to bring the technology up to that level, and they do come close in some ways, but they fall short in many ways. They're also extremely limited on the upgrades that you can, as a consumer, put in them. You can generally upgrade the memory. On some of them, you can upgrade the graphics card, and usually you can upgrade the storage, and that's about the end of it. Most of them will not allow you to change the processor. It's welded to the board. You cannot remove it. More and more of them also are getting more difficult to change the graphics card. They're just coming with a good one to start with, but technology changes quickly, and within a year, that graphics card may not be able to keep up with what you want to do with your laptop. Now, more pros. On battery power, a laptop will let you watch about 2 full movies, maybe a little more. And depending on the battery size, you can perform tasks for 4 to 6 hours. That is a tremendous amount of time if you have the need for that. And you're not limited on what the computer can do. So if you use programs like Office, for example, or other desktop-based applications, it's going to run just the same on that laptop. It's going to be a familiar environment. You can sync it with your desktop, so the moment you walk in the door from being out, you can turn on your laptop and your desktop and laptop can be set up to sync across different applications. They do come close in spec to desktops, but in sustained performance, laptops will suffer. So let's wrap this up. I know I've been talking a lot and there's a lot going through your head right now, so I'm going to land this plane. Don't get bogged down on specs like VRMs, power lanes, etc. None of that matters to you, the consumer, really. It shouldn't matter. Guys like me who love to dig our heads into specs and, you know, how many CFM does a fan put out? What noise level does a fan produce? You know, how many CUDA cores does a GPU have? That's not something that the average consumer should concern themselves with. You shouldn't have to, because there should be sources available to just talk to you like a human and explain to you the straight truth about what you're wanting to do with a computer and how you can best do it for the budget you have to work with. That is as honest as I can possibly be. There's nothing wrong with looking at specs and checking those things out if that's what you're interested in. But most consumers, they don't care. And they get overwhelmed and confused very easily by these things. And frankly, some manufacturers twist these specifications, just like when you buy a car and they rate the horsepower. That's in a perfect environment. That's not on the street in 100-degree weather on 87 garbage ethanol gas. So computers are the same way. Specs are great, but they're not what you should be looking at exclusively when you make a purchase choice. Now, ask around. Ask some of your friends if they've bought a computer lately. Ask around the office if there's a computer guy around. If you work in any decent sized office, there's probably an IT person or persons, and those would be some good sources to help you figure out what kind of computer will suit your needs best. There's also online sources. There's me. I'm here. There's going to be a link down below at the end of this video to not only email me, but also a Discord invite so that you can post a question and I will answer you. I absolutely guarantee I will answer you, and I will answer you myself until the day comes when I have so many questions that I have to get some help to answer you, but you will get an answer. No, the link will not be expired when you click on it in 2 months. It will still work. It will still be there. My phone will tell me there's a notification and I will answer you. You'll always have help available. And if I don't know the answer, I will find the answer. Do not be afraid to build your own computer. I'm going to keep saying this. You can do this. You can do it! If you can screw in a light bulb, if you can unlock a door, and if you can make your bed, I promise you, you can build a computer. You just need some guidance and you need to do some research. The build I mentioned earlier that I'm going to be doing for myself, that is going to be a lot of fun because I'm going to do a step-by-step, screw-by-screw build so that you can follow along. It's going to be broken up into each component that goes into that computer, starting with an overview, and then as I get into each part, starting with the case, I'll talk about why I chose that case and the benefits of that case. I'm not going to bore you with all the nonsense, the weight of the case and the material it's made out of and all this nonsense. I'm going to get right to the parts that matter and leave out the parts that don't matter. And I won't say that it's going to be the best guide or the only guide or the last guide you need. There is no such thing as the last because technology is moving forward. But right now, I think it will be a very comprehensive guide to help you so that you see that it's not quite so scary after all. Now, as I do these videos for the build, they will be in real time. I'm not going to skip ahead. I'm not going to cut parts. The video that you're watching now, you may see some cut scenes. You may see some jump cuts. You may see some other editing tricks. And that's just because I've paused or I've taken a drink. I'm human. But when I do that build, I'm going to keep the camera rolling. Good or bad, no matter what happens, I want you to see how long it really takes to do each task. That way, while you're building, you don't feel like you're going too slow or you've missed something or you've messed up. I want you to see what it actually takes to build a computer right the first time. Now, in each video, I will also be sharing tips and tricks that follow the rules of best practice. Best practice is a term that we use that really illustrates how what we know today might be different in a year or 2 years because someone comes up with something better and it makes more sense. Everyone should subscribe to best practice. You should always focus on quality. You should never be concerned about speed. This is your computer. It's an investment. It's a tool. And in order for it to serve you well, you have to take your time and be very thorough as you build. I've mentioned a lot of upcoming projects, and they're going to be a lot of fun. We're also going to troubleshoot a computer that I built about 7 years ago for a teenager who at some point had an entire Coke spilled inside it, probably while it was running. And now it's not running right. We're going to figure out what's wrong. We're going to figure out what we can do to fix it. And we're going to show you how to do that, because you may have a computer sitting around right now that had the same thing happen. You didn't throw it away, but you're not sure if it's salvageable or not. Well, we're going to work on that and see if we can get this computer working better. In order for you to know when I post a new video, I need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button and hit that little bell notification, because that's going to let you know I've posted a new video, and you can go and check it out and see if it's the video you've been waiting on. And again, I am so thrilled that you found this video and this channel. I hope you'll stick around. It's only going to get better. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me in Gibby's World of Tech.